Uncle Ron and stuff. This is episode 19. Passwords and backup. Computer stuff, cell phone stuff, router stuff, anything stuff. Everything's got passwords. You got a password in your router. You got a password for your Ethernet provider. You got password for websites. You got passwords for your cell phones. You got passwords coming at the yin yang. Uh, I have here, and what I'm trying to highlight to you is I often get in computers from people. They don't want anymore. And I try to repair them and clean them up and send them out to somebody who doesn't have one. A lot of kids don't have computers of their own they can use for school, and daddy and mommy don't like them on their computers for a variety of reasons. And so when I get them in, often I run into the stumbling block of their password protected. So I ask whoever it was that gave it to me, well, what's the password? They give me something, doesn't work. Give me something else, doesn't work. So passwords need to be written down somewhere. A little black book, something. You need to write down passwords. If you go to Europe, all of a sudden you need something off your computer. You call up one of your friends, they go over to your house and they log on, and all of a sudden they need a password. And so they, okay, well, what's your password? And oh crap, I can't remember. I changed it. So you give them whatever it does, they can't get in. You know, I don't use passwords on my main computers. I just don't. It's not necessary. I find it's not necessary. Who are you protecting it from? Your wife or somebody else in your family? Yeah, maybe you don't want your kids on your computer. I understand that. Write it down. I got passwords. Here is a sheet, and you can't see it very well, but you see, I've got a spreadsheet, if you will. I use Microsoft Excel, a spreadsheet, to keep track of my passwords. And right now, this sheet, I have 108 different passwords. This is for everything from websites to streaming services to computers that need them, cell phones. You got passwords for everything. If you don't write them down and keep track of them, you're headed for trouble. You go to log in someplace. Google does a good job of remembering passwords if you turn it on. The problem is that Google will remember every time you change the password, and so it doesn't quite frankly know which one to use when you go to a certain website. It will bring up one of them, and all of a sudden the website says that's not the right password. You can have 4 or 5 different stored Google passwords for the same website. There is a thing in Google that lets you manage your passwords. I suggest you go in periodically and clean that out. Otherwise, it's going to fill up with all this trash. Some of the computers are locked up and people don't remember the password to get in. There's little, especially with Apple computers, there's very little I can do. They're just like headed to my part pile. Okay, so you need to at least have write them down on index cards and whatever. That's all fine, but you got to keep them up to date. If you change the password for whatever reason, you gotta change where you got it written down. If you don't, you get in a vicious cycle of password loops. And a lot of websites don't even like you using an old password or a variation of an old password. Now you got to come up with something completely new, and it's got to be something you can remember at least. If you don't write it down, you got to write them down somewhere. This is a spreadsheet of, and you can see where I changed. This is the other side. Change the password. I wrote it down. I'll make a change on my Excel spreadsheet, print it out, and then I keep it wherever I'm going to need passwords. I have a Apple iPad in my bedroom that I read stuff on. I have my password list in there because sometimes I go off to some other site. I don't remember, and Google didn't store it. So I got to look on my sheet. Write down your passwords. I'm telling you, you got to have a little black book or something, a little piece of paper that you wrote it down on a piece of scotch tape on your screen is not going to cut it when somebody else has to get in. If you have 47 financial accounts and 47 different mutual fund companies, you better have down the username and the password in a place that whoever it is can find it. Otherwise, how are you going anybody know? This is just basic home economics for passwords uh, and websites and computers. My router that I use has a password. Everything has passwords. They tell you not to use the same password on multiple sites. I do it because I don't want to have 108 unique passwords. So I do that. There's really not a lot of risk of some hacker who's going to sit around, you're going to sit online long enough for him to hack into you. It's not important. And, they're not going to make money off of you. Yeah, there are viruses you can get that says, your computer's been locked. Unless you pay this, you can't unlock it. That's not true at all. You just use Task Manager and close out that task, okay?
I'm having trouble hearing. Can you say that again?
No. Passwords. Second thing is backups, data backups. Run across this over and over and over again. People say, well, I had all these photographs stored on my computer. The computer all screwed up.
According to Reuters, Democrats maintained the
Stop.
majority control of the Senate, while Republicans took majority control of the House.
The backups. You have all these image backups, okay? Hundreds of photographs, might stretch over years and years. Documents that you've written, all this sort of data. Well, I've run across it before. By default, Microsoft, trying to think they were doing you a favor, created a folder called Documents. There's also a folder called Videos. There's also a folder called Pictures. They're in the part that says Easy Access or something under Windows. That's all really great, and a lot of programs that you install are going to use those default locations for pictures, videos, whatever. That's great. Now, once upon a time, as I said, people have come to me and said, okay, I had all this data on there. Windows screwed up, so I had to reload Windows. Boom. Windows reloaded and put new folders on for videos, pictures, documents. Everything that was in those folders is gone. Okay. Now they've gotten better. If you have to reinstall Windows, they'll ask you, do you want to keep your old data? And what they're implying is the folders of photos and videos and so on, documents. They'll keep those without overwriting them. That helps a lot. But other programs don't necessarily store their data in those folders and may be in a unique folder. And an example of that, I think, is TurboTax. They don't put it underneath documents. I don't think they automatically do that. They do it someplace else. Okay. So if you had to reload Windows, bong, TurboTax stuff is gone. Or if you had some other application and might try to keep the data underneath the user, whatever user initiated that application, I don't know, like Photoshop, I'll just pick any application. The data that it plays with is stored right underneath wherever the application is installed, or it may be stored in whatever user. There is a user account under Windows, and it tends to install various applications or links and webs, all kind of stuff underneath it there. If you have to reload Windows, wipe It's wiped. Okay, gone. Okay, so the only real way to make sure that that treasured picture, those documents, even emails, all those kind of things, you have to make backups. Okay, used to be it was a terrible problem because you had to burn it to a CD or DVD, and most people don't know how to do that. Or now with USB thumb drives, you could put it over on that. That's not a bad way to go. They've got 125 gigabyte thumb drives now. And if nothing else, you can use File Explorer, which I hope you know how to do, to go in and make copies of all of the photos and images. And you got to find them wherever they are, and they could be sprinkled everywhere on the hard drive. You might want to do a search for JPEGs or MP4s or whatever the format that whatever you did was stored in. And believe it or not, images and videos, they have all these different formats. Depends on the application you're using, which format or the default you set for that. Could be sprinkled anywhere on your hard drive, in any folder, anywhere. And if you don't know where they are, it's going to be really hard to copy them and save them in a backup. Backups, you can use a thumb drive. A better way, I think, is to use a external uh, SAT USB drive. It's called a USB drive. You hook that up to your computer. There are some backup programs that Windows provides that allows you, it's under backup. If you search for backup, you'll find it. Allows you to back up your data. And you can specify what folders that you want backed up. Put that stuff over on an external USB hard drive. Once again, it takes some work because if you do it just once, then 2 years later, you're not going to have any of the new stuff that you put on your computer saved over in a backup. So you need to start a routine where, I don't know, whatever's comfortable for you, every 3 months, every 6 months, every year, you make a data backup of all the important stuff on your cell phone, your computer. Cell phones can get hooked to a computer and the data can be offloaded or copied, whatever it is. There's always a way to make a backup. You got to do backups of your data or you're going to be sorry. If you want your great grandchildren to see a picture of you, if you don't make data backups, they're not going to be able to do it. There's things called cloud backups, iCloud, whatever. Everybody's offering these things. They give you so much 5 gigabytes. Seems like a lot. Not if you've got a lot of movies, it isn't. And then you have to start paying subscription services. The whole thing on passwords and whatever, it's usually a problem comes in if a big site, let's take Facebook. If they were to be hacked and all the user data was to be copied, then they would have your name and all this other information, and they would sell it all over the web to various people, and you know, that's how usually it happens. Is what's a data breach into an insurance company or a medical hospital or something else, and they get your username and passwords and all your other data, and then nefarious people can use it to do all sorts of nasty stuff. That's usually how it happens. They don't come down and hang around and looking at an individual user to hack in their computer. It makes no sense, and that rarely happens. On Wi-Fi, people have wireless, and they have it password protected. Yeah, Wi-Fi goes like a couple 100 feet. Someone's going to have to be sitting out in front of your house or something else to be able to get into your Wi-Fi system. That's rarely going to happen. I don't even use passwords on my Wi-Fi because it isn't going to go that far. Even if my neighbors could see the Wi-Fi, yeah, if they log on, I can periodically go into the router and check it and see, no, nobody else is on that I don't know about. And even if they did, they don't have the skill set, and neither do I, to go get, once I'm into a router, if I could get in. Even password, the router's password. They couldn't even get inside your router. The fact they got onto your network, okay, but depends how that's set up. They can't go anywhere. Now they got to have special crack tools or whatever it is. I don't even know to go any farther to get any of your personal data off your Wi-Fi. It's just wi passwords on Wi-Fi keep honest people out. That's all. It's like a lock on your front door. Honest people out. If somebody wants to get in, they'll get in. Not a big concern. Data backups, passwords. Uh, Besides the data that's on your computer, you also have a ton of applications that you may have bought or otherwise installed, things that you use all the time, video recorders, image manipulation tools, email, all kinds of stuff. Okay. If the system crashes on you and you have to buy a new computer or you have to reload Windows or whatever, um, if you're on the same computer, like you had a hard disk crash, if you have what's called an image backup is everything that was on that hard drive at the time that you made the backup. All your applications, all the Windows settings, all that stuff is recorded to what is called an image backup. So if you had a terrible crash and you had to replace your hard drive in your current computer, you could put a new hard drive in and actually install Windows and all of your apps and all of your data from an image backup. Now, it's a little more complicated than just making a normal backup. But if you're curious, it's all over the web how to make an image backup. Again, to a USB hard drive is a way to do that. I make image backups of all the computers that are resident here, and there's what one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, 8 of them I think are here. I have image backups for all 8. So if something crapped out on a hard drive, I can reload it, and I don't have to reload all the programs and do all the Windows settings and all that stuff. So passwords need to be written down in some place in a little black book or use a spreadsheet like I do. And then you can sort it, you can rename it. You see this one's in alphabetical order, okay? Uh, that's the easiest and best way to do it. You got to keep it up to date if you change things, but if somebody else came in, they would really need to know, like, I got all these accounts. How do they even know you got these accounts or streaming accounts or anything? They wouldn't know that if you hadn't written it down someplace. And then what's a username and what's the password? That's not asking too much. I mean, you got to think outside the box of you. Think of what happens with other people are in a situation you're not around. You're in Europe. You're in a hospital. I don't know. You're not there. They got to be able to get in and do things for you. Okay, password backup. Write it down. Have it somewhere. Data backups. Absolutely, positively. On a USB drive or a thumb drive. There is a core addition to that is, in the government, they have backups of everything. As everybody knows, they got backups of backups. But they have in their data management procedures, manuals, of course, every agency has this, data archiving, that's what they call it, uh, off-site storage. Okay, so not only do you have a USB backup on a USB drive of some kind of your data, and maybe another one or on the same drive, a backup of your image of your computer. Okay, you got all that. You can leave that at your house. That's great. Something happens, it's immediately there. But worst case, and that's what you got to be thinking about here, and that's what the government thinks about is, what if you had a fire in your house, like in your wherever your computer is, and wherever you kept your image backup, all gone, burnt. Now you have no recovery at all. You don't. All of that precious data, those photographs, those documents, videos, whatever you had, are lost unless you have a backup in what's called an off-site location. Now, an off-site location is you can give a friend or your sister or your brother or your mother or whatever a USB drive and say, just hold on to this for me, will you please? Once a year, you go there, you get it back from them, you make a copy, you do whatever you do, and give it back to them. It's an off-site location. The idea of a fire in two locations, approximately the same time as risk is zero, so you have an off-site location. I use a bank deposit box for that purpose. The bank deposit box is my off-site location. It also, although not 100% proven, gives me some level of what's called EMP uh, resistance or risk reduction. EMP is electromagnetic pulse, and it occurs when a nuclear device is exploded. There's a huge pulse that goes out, wide spectrum radio signals and whatever, and it's so intense it'll blow out electrical circuits in your cars and your computers, hard drives, that all get screwed up, okay, destroyed, lost. In a bank, you got massive amount of concrete around a safe deposit box, and there's rebar in there and all that kind of stuff. I don't know if it's truly what's called a Faraday cage, which is supposed to reduce or eliminate the EMP type scenario where electronics are fried. I'm not sure that a bank, the current bank deposit boxes, bank deposit, what part of repository, are EMP. I'm sure they weren't designed for that. Maybe the newer ones are, and maybe they even tout that they're EMP uh, protected. I don't know. If they aren't, they should be in the future, and there's going to be somebody who's going to start storage facilities like that for EMP. If you have people who are buying a year's worth of freeze-dried food to prepare for the apocalypse of nuclear war or other things, you've got the same situation with all of your electronics. That precious data that you want some future generation to have. The cloud is not immune to EMP. Maybe they've taken some steps. I doubt it. Anyway, passwords got to be written down in some organized fashion and kept up to date. You know, if you got it, you got to maintain it. Rule number one. Number two, all that precious data, anything, images, photographs, documents, videos, you need a backup of those things on an external device. You need that. You can leave one in your house if you want. You also need that in an off-site location. In the worst case, it'll save you. It's, precious memories cannot be replaced. I mean, that photograph of your child when he was 2, if it goes, it goes, it's gone. 3, image backups. A complete backup of the way your system looked at that moment in time when you made that backup. That'll let you recover from a serious hard drive failure or on a computer. Put another hard drive in, reload the image, and you're up and going again without doing applications or image. That should be a separate USB drive. Okay, I've preached enough about this. But I say, you see my new sign back here? Yeah, practice radical empathy. Uncle Ron and stuff, whatever. It's like preaching. I do it all the time about passwords, about backups. Nobody ever listens to me. And then they cry in the blues. I don't know where it went. I can't find it. Well, it's not there anymore. It's gone. If you don't you have to do it. You can rely on the cloud if you want. Not me. That could be hacked. That's up there somewhere that you don't know where that is. I don't even know where that cloud is. It could be anywhere, be sprinkled all over the world. And something happens. Yeah, they've got backup procedures. They've got redundancy. They got power supply. They got all kinds of redundancies. There's still data breaches that go on, and that data gets taken by people. There's people have stored their nudie videos up in the cloud. It got hacked. Now their nudie videos are all over the internet. That worked really good, didn't it? You want that to happen to you? The cloud's okay. No, it'd be better if it was in a USB hard drive. In fact, more than one. Most of my computers have what's fault tolerant hard drive. Everything I write to one hard drive is automatically written to another hard drive. So if I lose one hard drive, I still have a perfect copy on the other one. Both hard drives are not going to fail at the same time unless I had a major power malfunction or a fire or something like that. So I keep a real backup of everything on another drive all the time, built into my computers. I have two that are mirroring each other all the time. Now it's hard to do in laptops, and it's not, you can't do it on a cell phone. But for your computers, yeah, lots of them support two drives that can be set up in a mirrored fashion or other backup methods. On top of all that, I still have USB drives with images and also data. I have a whole set like that in a safe deposit box off site. I've over and 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 over. You're going to really hate yourself when you lose those precious photos, or you can't remember the password to a site, or something happens to you and one of your loved ones has got to get in to a certain site and nobody knows what the password is and you can't tell them. That's going to be bad news, and there's not easy ways around this stuff. So listen to me, please. Write your passwords down. I don't care where it is, as long as everybody else knows where that list is or that book is or something. Not in the bank deposit box, in your home. Backup of all your precious data, unless you don't care. Image backup of your computer system, really not necessary, but you're going to regret it if something bad happens to your hard drive. And hard drives last 5 years, that's it. Meantime between failure. Okay, I'm done with this episode. Uncle Ron and stuff, whatever.